right, Micky, you ready to talk about Enneagram ones?
I am ready. It's tender because, it's my
I
type,
know, it's
but
close to home. It's close to home. Well, let's start there. I mean, how did you come to realize that you were an Enneagram one?
well, it was kind of roundabout. So for a long time, I thought I was a type eight. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And that was partially a cultural overlay, right? So that was part of
Mm,
that was assumptions people were making about me as a Black woman, as
mm,
someone who is a leader and has a very kind of forceful presence. And we're really starting to talk about that, how we need to be talking about culture, things like
yes.
race and gender and sexuality and um, you know,
Yeah.
who's been teaching the Enneagram, all of those things we actually need to talk about
Yeah.
and realize that like your teacher matters, the,
Yeah.
material matters and other parts of your life, right? Like,
Yeah.
because your culture does impact your personality.
Totally. That's
Um,
such a good point,
yeah,
especially with what you said. I mean, we know Black women, Latina women, socialization, there is just more of a freedom to speak your mind. Confrontation is not as, I mean, white people are really passive aggressive. Like,
yes,
right? I mean, our communication
yep,
style is very passive aggressive, where
yeah,
there are other cultures that are more direct. And
that's
I
right.
could see where, there could be mistyping in that
That's right.
confusion over like, well, this person's very bold, so therefore I guess they must be an eight.
That's right. And not
Yeah.
only that, it's the like cultural expectations, right? So
Yes.
there can be a lot of trying not to come off as too strong, or
Mm-hmm.
you just show a little bit of being upset and you're the angry Black woman, right? So I
Yes.
think there was just a lot of that kind of happened to me is because it did happen in conversations with friends,
Yeah.
and they were going off my behaviors and not
Yes.
asking me about my
Your
motivations.
motivation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Internally. So, what is the
So
internal motivation for a one?
yeah. So um, this type, like I said, it's called the perfectionist or the
Mm-hmm.
reformer or the judge, which I really like the judge the
Mm-hmm.
best
Mm-hmm.
because I think of like scales of justice or a
Yeah.
gavel. And there's a lot of kind of weighing what's good and
Mm-hmm.
wrong, what's right. And so they're really motivated by this desire to be good. They just want
Mm-hmm.
to be good or they want to be right. Um, and it can also be understood as like a motivation to improve people and systems and things, to set things right.
Mm-hmm.
And they like ones really have this laser like focus on what's wrong. Like
Yeah.
that is their superpower. They can enter a room and
Uh-huh.
know what is off,
Yeah.
and usually have a sense of what needs to be done to correct it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the attention of this type goes to what's right and wrong. Um, and you know, they almost think of everything in those terms. They're paying a lot of attention to standards and protocol,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of work on self monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
So their attention is drawn away from pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
um, to like these standards and criticism. But most of the criticism that's happening, like the stereotype of the one will be that they're really super critical of other people.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is, whatever criticism comes out of the mouth of a one, you can best believe that they have criticized themselves
Yeah.
20 times over for that same thing or in
Yeah.
that same arena, right? So there is a constant monitoring of like, am I showing up the way I should be in this situation? Am I meeting all of the
Mm-hmm.
rules? It's and that self monitoring is exhausting. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot of work to make sure you're following all the rules all the time,
Yes.
and rules that other people don't know about, don't care
Yeah.
about, don't understand exist, but somehow they exist in the mind of a one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that can be really challenging.
Yeah. So in stress, a one is maybe, very self critical, very obsessed with getting things right, doing things correctly, maybe being rigid. How about in, when they're working in their strength or when they're finding balance?
Yeah, I mean, uh, like I tend to look at the points that we can go to. So like one is
Mm-hmm.
connected to 4 and 7,
Yeah.
and I think you can pull resources from those places you're connected to. You can pull resources from your wings. We haven't even gotten to that yet, but like we have these resource points. And, ones at their best, right, are like, they have a deep sense of justice, morality, really believing that the world can be better, that people can be better.
Yeah.
They're idealistic and have high standards. And I mean, you want to talk about somebody who is dedicated, honest, full of integrity and productive, like that's a one. They often think they're not good or worry about their own goodness, but typically they're going to be pretty good people because they really do care about it,
Absolutely.
So it's those kinds of things, is like, they have to actually learn to give themselves a break, because no one is trying to be as good as a one is. And so if they can just relax, if they cannot see pleasure as a reward, if they cannot see, like just this morning, I literally was just sitting down to eat some oatmeal and drink my tea. And I was like feeling anxious inside my body. Like, I should be doing something. Like there's work I could be doing.
Yeah.
Like my emails are always calling to me. It's like, girl, if you don't sit yourself down and eat some breakfast, because normal people just eat. You don't have to earn breakfast. Just eat it. And so, but that is kind of that overarching, always kind of like, am I doing the right thing? Am I being as good of a person as I can?
Yeah.
Right. And so we can come off super formal and rigid. Right. Like I laugh about my emails sometimes because I write really formal emails to my friends, because it's just like, that's how you write emails. I write formal texts because it's just how things should be.
It's business time.
Right. Right. So it's like, learning to actually tap into what you want is really big.
Yeah.
Because I can really get caught up in like how to be a good partner. Like I should do this, this, and this versus like, what do I want to do as a partner? What do I want to do because I love this person?
Yeah.
And that can be really difficult to tap into for type ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I relate. I mean, I'm at type 3, but I relate so much to that feeling of denying yourself pleasure, and I think with an Enneagram 1, that it's like the motivation is different, but the behavior shows up the same, which is like, I should be, fill in the blank. I should be that nag, that constant nag of like, I should be doing something, or I should be doing something right.
Yeah. Well, and that's why 1s and 3s can get along really, really well in work, right?
Yeah.
Because we both want to get things done. Now, 1s want to get everything done right, whereas 3s are like, as long as we get to the end product, it doesn't matter so much.
Slam it home.
Right. And so that's where the tension starts.
Yes.
Right. That's where the tension comes in with 1s and 3s.
Yes.
But in general, like, we both want to kill it.
Yeah.
And have a desire for excellence. And so, 1s really have to, because the inner critic, a lot of people have an inner critic, but for 1s, it tends to be the kind of strongest.
Yeah.
Usually that's like, not every type has like a just killer question that you're like, if they answer this question this way, I know they're this type. But for the most part, the reaction to a type 1, asking them about, do you have the experience of having an inner critic? They're like, oh my God, yes. Like, she never shuts up. Like, there's usually a very strong reaction.
Yeah.
And it's a constant voice.
Yeah.
And again, as a therapist, like with parts work, right? Like there are parts of us, and we're like, no part is bad. So the inner critic isn't bad.
Yeah.
She's just trying to protect us.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's understanding that. It's then welcoming the essence, because a lot of times one's, what the personality is protecting is this essence of, unity, of undividedness. Like, 1s do have this sense in them that like, we are connected in this web of mutuality, which is why we want to fix it for me, for you, for the collective. I want to fix everything.
Yeah.
And so if I can, you know, ease into that sense of oneness, if I can ease into the sense that like a rose isn't good because it's symmetrical, it's perfect in that way, right?
Yeah.
It's perfect because it's beautiful, because it's pleasing, because it smells good,
Yes.
because it's, you know, because it has this one, you know, giant leaf and the others are like, it's just beautiful in the way that it is. When we
Yes.
can start to connect to that in ourselves and in other people, then that is what allows us to relax the type, and
Yeah.
ones can then have this really beautiful sense of like life is perfect as it is.
Yeah. If we have a one in our life, a friend or partner, how can we best love them?
Whew. Well, I again, that hits really close to home. I think um helping them touch into what they want versus what is the right thing for them to say or do.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and having patience to help them get there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I realized that somebody has to ask me several times what I want, often, especially if it's a moral question,
Yeah.
because there are layers of what I think I should do, or what other people want me to do, or what the
Yeah.
right thing to do is.
Yes.
And it takes me a while to actually
To get
touch
down.
into
Yeah.
what I want and what's right for me,
Yeah.
that can be valid,
Yes.
especially if there seems to be some outside, like higher moral thing. It can be really hard for me to touch
Yeah.
into what really truly feels right in my core.
Yes.
And so sometimes we need some support around that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Man, that's good. I resonate with that also as a 3. It's
Yeah.
very hard for me also to touch into what do I actually want?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And when we get to the 3, we'll talk about why that's tough for 3s.
Yes. Yes. Well, this is good. I think I just appreciate the depth you're bringing to it, that, you know, it isn't, again, just about how we behave, but this really gets down into motivation and sense of
That's
self.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, next we're going to have an interview with a 1.